Boys Inc. episode 36. Welcome back, anyone that's listening.
Comeback.
It's been a while. Exactly. That's my
When was the last one?
favorite thing. Too long ago. I don't want to say
Okay.
because basically it was a huge gap between this episode and the last episode, and I'm gonna try to get this out of the way quickly so I can just get into the shit I want to say. But some shit happened in real life, and I wasn't sure how tasteful it would be to just continue making this every week. So took a bit of a break, but probably gonna get more consistent now. Don't want to get into it right now because I don't know who's okay with what being said. So I'll lay off of that. So anyway, the hint I'll give you about last episode, it was before Russia and Ukraine were fighting.
Okay.
It was before that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where we were going with that.
So that's new. Yeah. And I was going to say, I have tons of shit to talk about with that. I don't know if you're down, but...
Sure.
There's a whole lot going on. This is one of those topics that I'm talking about exactly when I say a topic is like the orb of confusion from that one SpongeBob episode where Man Ray has the fucking orb of confusion. Where people get near this topic and just some people just become retarded as soon as they start trying to talk about this. The range of takes I've seen from random people that should be in disagreement with each other, it's crazy. I've seen all right, maybe 80 to 85% of people go, yes, obviously Russia is wrong for invading Ukraine. They shouldn't be killing civilians. But then there's another 15% of people that are either okay with it or trying to justify it in some way or arguing that Ukraine is also bad. And it's I mean, sure, Ukraine is also, not great.
Well, every country's got bad and good. But
exactly. It's
Ukraine's clearly the victim here.
Exactly. It's Ukraine has serious corruption problems, though. It's okay, so Russia is allowed to just walk in and kill all of them? So, it's
Right. So, America does terrible shit, but on 9/11, we were the victim.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
You don't justify an attack ever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's dude, come on now. That's, I mean, listen.
Well, I think the key is civilian involvement, too.
Yeah, exactly. It's Russia is coming in and not just attacking, military targets. They're just blowing up everything.
Yeah, this isn't war.
I mean, yeah, they're
they just
invaded
the nation.
Yeah, we're just gonna burn it down and take all their shit, is what they're doing. So, there's that. So, one of the things that I noticed a lot is none of the information coming out is really all that trustworthy. Everything that I hear is subject to change, which is really annoying. I don't know if this is just how all wars are, where it's hearing information and then 2 or 3 days later it's no, that was actually completely fake. That's
yes.
Oh, okay. And it's to a point now where I think news stations have stopped trying to cover it as much because they know people are just trolling them. There was that one image that got picked up of, they were talking about the ghost of Kiev, this fighter pilot guy that was downing all of these Russian pilots, but the Photoshop picture they had on the news, it was clearly Photoshopped Sam Hyde's face on a fighter pilot. Sam Hyde is just this YouTube guy. And they just put it on the news his name is Samil Hydekovsky. Whatever. It's someone just called in and lied to them about it. So I think the news is tired of that shit happening because I've seen tons of internet celebrities just having their names tweaked a little bit, poorly photoshopped onto military-esque photos, and then put on the news. It is kind of alarming how easy it is for them to fucking keep baiting news stations into this.
Yeah.
So I think honestly, almost all news organizations cannot be trusted on this one. They're just reporting bullshit. So it's really hard to know what exactly is true and what isn't true. And no one should ever say that I don't come prepared with solutions, okay? Because I do know the most trusted name in news that we can all turn to in this time of strife.
Cardi B.
No, you're on the right track with
but recurring... her platform.
I know her platform is immense, but no, because I don't think she could even point to Ukraine on a map.
Okay.
And I don't even mean
I
like,
don't think I could, to be honest.
I mean, but here's the thing, I'm gonna broaden it. Don't worry, because I was like, well, I mean, I would probably get pretty close, but I don't know that she would hit the right continent.
Oh, okay.
Like
Yeah, I could do that.
if I said, hey, point to Ukraine on a map, you would at least land in Europe. Like you'd be
Yes.
like, somewhere close to like Russia ish.
Right.
Cardi B would be like, yeah, it's like over here in
Yeah.
Peru, right? And it's like, no, you're just missed it. But no, different recurring character on this show, I guess. I'm gonna call this one the glow up of the year. Okay.
The glow up of the year.
The glow up of the year. We talked about him on a previous episode, and he is back for more. The man, the myth, the legend, fucking Lord Miles Routledge.
Oh my god.
Lord Miles is back at it again. So check this out. He has not just been doing nothing since he got out of Kabul, Afghanistan. He started basically being like a war journalist. So his whole thing now is he goes to some of the most dangerous countries on earth and just like fucks around and gets up to shenanigans there. And I don't know what compels him to do it, but I fucking love it. I'm gonna link his YouTube channel in the description of this one because he was just in Ukraine. And I think he might be going back, I'm not sure. But he was just in Ukraine, like, live streaming shit. So, I mean, that is about as trustworthy as it can get, right? Like, it is live video from the place it's happening. And it's funny because he's, like, the only one that I can really say is, like, trustworthy on this. And, yeah, he's only gotten significantly more Chad-like since last time, which is awesome. Okay, like I don't know what it says about us as a species that now our best war journalist is also a shit poster.
Debatable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to go on, but I'd like to read a couple of things that he put up on Twitter about this. So apparently he's like super Christian, which I didn't know. He's like very, he's Catholic, and he tweeted, I think while he was in Ukraine, he tweeted, "I have not found a Catholic wife on my travels. I will dox my location to the Russian artillery for immediate shelling." Just, you know what? Fucking kill me. He's going through it in Ukraine. It's not looking good.
Jesus.
Although it was funny, he did tweet something that was like,
yeah.
He tweeted something after the Afghanistan thing where he was talking about like people were sliding into his DMs trying to have sex with him. Like porn stars were. He's like, I had porn stars and models sliding into my DMs trying to have sex with me, but I said, no, I'm a good Christian. I won't have sex until marriage. They were like, yo, I admire the big dick energy where you want to meet up. And he goes, no, I just want to talk to you. I would never before marriage. It's like, what the fuck? Okay.
Nice, man.
Yeah, it's like, wow. All right, fuck it.
Talk.
He's like, yeah, I mean, I would prefer to just talk to you. And it's like, wow, okay. Interesting. It's, it's very interesting if you do want to follow the Ukraine shit, because he is all over that shit. His Twitter is hilarious, because I was just scrolling through it before this, looking for some shit to talk about. And he's got some really good ideas. I have a theory. We're recording this on the 25th of March at 2:49. That's the time right now. And I don't think he's announced where he's going next. He just keeps alluding to it as the big trip. I think it's North Korea. That's my guess. My guess is he's going to North Korea.
Oh, shit.
Because he posted a thing about...
How do you even get in?
He's got a plan. I'll run it down for you. Okay. He posted a picture of himself on a paramotor. And I am no paramotor expert, but my understanding is it's basically just a small aircraft thing where it's like basically a parachute and a fan that you wear, and then you can fly with it. And he's like, yeah, he posted a picture of himself doing that, and then was running down the specs of it, where he was saying it can basically land and take off from anywhere. You don't need like a runway. You can just do it from a field. You can get like however far on a full tank, and you can fold it up and carry it in a backpack. So it's not even like you need a whole crew of people to operate it. He can just walk out to a field and do it. So I think in that post he was talking about, hey, wouldn't it be funny if you went up to the border of North Korea, hopped in this bad boy, flew over to North Korea, landed in a field, and just like talked to some people there, got an interview with them, and then flew back out.
Jesus. I mean, I just watched the interview recently.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the plot.
Yeah, a little bit.
If Seth Rogen could do it, then
that's true.
I mean,
dude, it's funny remembering back in the old days when drama was simple. Remember when the interview was coming out and North Korea was mad because it was a movie about assassinating their leader? They're like, yeah, we have to fucking hack Sony or whoever the fuck is making this movie.
I do.
It's like,
well, they threatened to bomb what line of theaters? Like AMV, not AMV, fucking AMC or whatever the fuck.
Oh,
one of those
I don't remember
theater
that.
chains got threats.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're like, if you show the movie, we're gonna fucking kill all of you.
Oh my god, that's insane. Yeah, but like, dude, remember back when that was all that people had to worry about was, yeah, all right, but they won't. Like, they might try to hack it, but I don't buy it. I somehow don't believe that North Korea has very sophisticated hacking ability. Like, I might be completely wrong about that, but I suspect they probably don't. Have you ever seen one of those images of North Korea?
Well, I mean,
at night?
Of course it was a bluff, but
yeah, of course. Have you seen that image
no
of the
light?
Yeah, it's like all of the other countries. Like South Korea is lit up. China is lit up in the cities.
Well, they got Seoul.
Yeah, exactly. Japan lit up, and then North Korea is just completely dark.
Dead spot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, ooh, yeah. I don't know that I necessarily trust that they are very good with technology, considering they barely have electricity like consistently. So there's that. So back to Miles. I almost wanted to segue away from that because I had a great segue, but I would just completely ditch this Miles thing, and I don't want to yet. So he's just based as fuck at this point. He tweeted on March 17th, "I won't charge journalists for interviews if they send me a video of them benching 2 plates with good form."
Nice.
He's just like,
respectable.
Fuck it. So I was just talking with my family before I started recording this, and I was talking to my brother, and I told him that I was like, dude, this fucking guy, and he goes, wait, hold on, how much weight is that? I was like, all right. He said 2 plates, bench it with good form. So he did the math, and he was like, I can't remember if he said it came out to 215 or 225, but he said that was his personal best. So my brother was like, shit, maybe I should just like send him a video of me doing that.
Man.
And then I can interview him. So might look into that, might not. I'm not sure. Not super sure, but it's on the table. All options are on the table right now. And then, I mean, the one that really stood out to me is like just amazing is he tweets, "Whilst driving, I had no connection and couldn't attack in the clan war on Clash of Clans. I've been kicked out of the clan. Being a war journalist really has its sacrifices." He's concerned with the real war. Not the real war in Ukraine, the real war in Clash of Clans. The one that really matters.
Just in life, yeah. Of course.
I mean, listen. The people in Ukraine...
Well, all right. Boom Beach is a little up there.
Yeah, I mean, like, all right. The people in Ukraine, the real loss here is that all of their Clash of Clans accounts are collecting dust while they're too busy running for their lives. That's the real loss here.
They took away Netflix and Coke.
Shit.
Oh, he can't drink his Starlight Coke and watch his Pretty Little Liars.
That's true. Dude, I saw a post. It was so good. It was like all of these companies are just not doing business with Russia now. And it's like, Disney and Coke and fucking all these like porn sites and shit.
Dude,
It's like
CNN.
yeah, it's
One
like
of them is CNN.
it's tons of companies.
They're gonna be the most well-developed nation in the
Yeah,
world within the next
like
week.
it
Yeah,
was like they're losing all junk food and porn and like garbage media, like social media shit and news media. They're
right.
going to be the most well-adjusted population in the world in like
Thank
6
God.
months. In 6
We're
months,
just
they'll all
making
be
super
normal.
soldiers.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fucking crazy. Like, yeah. So, I mean, fucking, dude. All right. So, yeah, this whole Ukraine thing has been ridiculous, but I mean, I feel like I had more to talk about, but you know, the whole like orb of confusion thing. But yeah, go check out Lord Miles on YouTube because he actually started like, you know, posting more.
I didn't know he was back.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't either until I started looking into Ukraine shit, and it was like it was a live stream from Miles,
Got
and I was like,
something.
wait a minute, I know this fucking guy. Wait a minute,
Nice.
I know this dude.
So is he's just chilling in Ukraine?
He was. I don't think he's there right now. I think he left.
Okay.
But he on his Twitter was saying that he and a friend like drove into Ukraine just to live stream a bunch of shit and just see what was going on. I think he ended up saving like some refugee family while he was there.
Jesus.
Like I think he helped them like evacuate or something, or at least that's the way he said it went down. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with it because my research on this topic was an afternoon of scrolling on my phone. So, you know, grain of salt, but that seemed to be the message that kept coming up. So, you know, whatever. But oh, I had a topic. I'm all over the place today, just in case anyone was wondering. Thank you for noticing. But yeah, I mean, so Ukraine is getting a little fucked, and then I saw this other Twitter feed, like Twitter thread, I guess, that was really interesting to me. Again, the problem is I don't know how to substantiate any of this, or even if that's like productive to do. I gotta find it again because my phone just refreshed it, and I fucking hate that. But it was basically why the invasion is going so poorly. Because you would think that Russia would have this shit done by now. Like they've been there for weeks, attacking them like full force,
right.
And they haven't accomplished a lot. Like they've destroyed a lot of things, but in terms of like taking land, they're sort of getting hung up on cities a lot. Like they're having serious problems actually capturing cities. And I could only find like one real explanation of why, and I don't know that I can even verify it because it's just some dude on Twitter. Like, the points he's making seem to make sense, but I don't know if they're just like obviously wrong because I'm not well read on the subject. You know what I mean? Like I'm not super knowledgeable on fucking Ukraine. So, all right, I'm gonna pause recording until I can find this. If you want to go handle some shit, we're back. Hopefully, I cut that in a way that it didn't sound like shit. So anyway, there's
Yeah,
all right.
I think we're good.
Yeah, all right. So there's a dude on Twitter who claims to have this whole thread about why the Russian army has been getting absolutely bodied in terms of winning this war quickly and cleanly in a timely manner, like it was sort of expected that they would. So if anyone wants to go check this out, I'll link it, or if you just want to search it, his name is Kamil Galeev, I think is how you pronounce that. I'm not sure. He tweeted it on March 12th.
Yeah.
And the numbers have only
Good
gotten...
luck with any Eastern European.
Yeah, I'm about to fuck up every single word. And here's the thing. His grammar isn't great. I haven't spent a whole lot of time looking at his page. I have no idea what the fuck he tweets regularly. But I think he's not native language English. So I'm just going to try to fix it as best as I can while reading it. Okay. So if shit sounds clunky, it's that. Probably. So basically this guy starts a Twitter thread and he goes, why Russian army is so weak. When Russia invaded, experts thought it would win in 24 to 72 hours. 2 weeks later, the war's still going on. How come on paper Russia's superiority is overwhelming? And he tweeted that on March 12th and it was 2 weeks in. It's now March 25th and it's still going on. And like not really any signs showing that it's close to ending either. And he says, although Russia projects a warlike image, its military is weak and doesn't know how to fight wars. So then he puts an image up, and I'll put this in the video, but basically just for the people that might be listening to this audio only, it is a direct comparison of the military strength of Russia and Ukraine, and it's saying how many active personnel they have, the strength of their navy, how many aircrafts they have, how many tanks they have, that sort of thing. And Russia is like several times outnumbering Ukraine on basically every metric. Every metric they have them beat by multiple times over. So it's not looking good for them. But then why are they able to defend this so well? Why has Ukraine not lost this already? So he follows up. He says, notwithstanding with its warlike image, boosted by massive PR campaigns, Russia's military have nearly zero experience of fighting conventional wars against other regular armies. They were quite successful in suppressing civilian riots, of course, in Hungary in 1956, for example, or Czechoslovakia in 1968. So they can fight against civilian rioters, but like another organized army, not so much. So then he goes on to say, basically, they were less successful when it comes to suppressing guerrilla movements. But then again, guerrillas also don't have heavy weaponry and have no way of defending themselves from the air. And yet Russians still had high casualties, which, I mean, not that Russia cares, because that's historically been their whole strategy, was just run it down mid, basically, and just sacrifice as many people as is necessary, because they don't care as long as they win. And then he says, since World War II, Russia never fought a conventional war against a regular army. The only exception was Georgia in 2008, like the country Georgia, not the state. Russia invaded to support separatist movements in Abkhazia and South Ossetia, I think that's how that's pronounced, and defeated the tiny Georgian army. That was the closest Russia had to a real war in the last 70 years. So
70?
Yeah, since World War II, since 1945. That was the last time Russia had their army engage another country's organized army. It was that up until 2008, and it was a tiny country with like a very insignificant army compared to Russia's. So they have grown sort of used to not fighting worthy opponents. And then he says, individual Russian military specialists fought in Korea, Vietnam, Angola, etc., but the whole army didn't. Russian military machine, from recruitment to logistics, hasn't been checked in a war against a large regular army since 1945, and basically we are now seeing that in action. So a lot of their logistical shit just does not work. Let's see. Okay, so it says, Russian army fought against enemies, neither of which had a regular army of its own since 1945. So enemies of Russia had no structure, little training, very little firepower. To compensate this, Russia heavily invests in propaganda glorifying its military, but what do they really look like? And this is where it gets interesting. This is where it starts to be sort of unbelievable, and this is where I start to get, like, skeptical of this whole thing. But this guy has some sources, although they're in Russian or Ukraine. I don't know what language this is, but it's not one that I can read. So English, probably. But
yeah,
he says, December of 2021, there were... I'm trying to see what type of document this is. There's... Okay, I think it's like a news report or something, basically saying there's a Russian military base where Russian mobsters are extorting people on base. He says, thieves-in-law imposed tribute on a Russian military base, making NCOs and officers pay them cash. They specifically target veterans of Syria who earned cash there. They harass, threaten, and beat them. The leader of the gang was arrested but released a few months later.
Jesus.
So Russian mobsters go up to Russian military bases and extort them for money. And then his next post...
So it's under mob rule.
Sort of. So like,
at that point.
Not technically mob rule, because technically the military is in charge. Like, I don't think they're extorting
the
generals.
mob wears the pants.
The mob is like... definitely has a lot more power than it should. Like, can you imagine that happening in the United States? Like, some fucking mafia guy goes to a military base to try to extort them for money.
And it works.
Yeah, and then they do it successfully, and then his next post is that isn't even an exception. That is the rule. That is generally true in Russia. It says Russian military is constantly harassed by thieves and forced to pay money. And then he posts 4 random headlines of this being the case. On how thieves force literally any military, including the ones managing the nuclear rockets, to pay them tribute. Even if you're so important in the Russian military that you work in the base that has nuclear weapons, gangsters come to you and extort you for money. So then he goes into a little bit of societal context. So he's basically saying Russia has a very strange, like, thief culture that America doesn't. So I'm not, I don't really know how much I can comment on that because I know nothing about Russia, so, whatever. So basically he's saying the thief, the thief, like, mafia presence is way higher in prisons in Russia. So even if their dude does get sent to prison, it's like, that's hardly a punishment. He gets to go hang out with his boys in prison. That they run the prison. The mafia is basically running the prison from inside of it. So not like that's much of a punishment. And and then in this post he's basically just pointing out, like, they try to paint themselves as rebels and counterculture, but they're the ones that hold power over the military and the prison system. So how can you be rebellious counterculture guys if you are collaborating with the government? It is very strange. I don't know exactly what to parse from it. So basically he's saying, yeah, they have a lot of sway in prisons, like way more than would make any amount of sense. So thieves racketeering the military, including Syrian veterans, nuke personnel, is not an accident. It's a deliberate government policy to keep professional military low in dominance hierarchy. Russian state purposefully keeps its military in this position. It's all part of the plan. So now is when it's like, I don't know that he necessarily laid his argument down well enough to make that jump, because that seems like a big jump. So that's why I'm just going to link it for everyone that wants to go read it. But basically he's saying, well, if the government and the mob are working together closely, like they are in the prisons, then how does it not also stand to reason that if they didn't want the mob extorting their military guys, they would just tell them to stop? Because that is fucking flagrant that is a problem. And the fact that they don't say that means it must be some sort of deliberate thing. Like, they're doing it on purpose. Like, the Russian government wants their army to be extorted by the mob. And he says, if you want, you can dig further into how harassed, how abused, and how low in hierarchy the Russian military are. Of course, the lowest position ever is taken by conscripts. There are many publications on how conscripts were forced into gay prostitution to earn cash for higher-ups. I don't even know how to go near that one. I don't know how to even approach that one. Like, I mean, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, it's a bit of a curveball.
That one comes out of left field. And see, that's why I'm like, I don't know how much I trust this guy, because he is providing sources, but they're in Russian. Like, I don't know what they say.
Yeah.
So he might just be making all this up, but it is food for thought, even if it is fake. Because even if it's fake, I definitely say it could be. It is still interesting to think about, because the point he's getting at is actually plausible. And he says, okay, so assuming that's all part of the plan, but why would they develop such a plan? Well, higher-ups are afraid of the army. Russian thieves play rebels, being a part of the state apparatus, the same way Russia plays a military regime, being in fact a state security regime. State security are not the military. That's another institution which has very uneasy relations with soldiers. That's understandable. State security will easily suppress any civilian revolt and any guerrilla. Thus, the only inner force that could overthrow them would be the army. So basically, I think what he's getting at here is, like, imagine the KGB as who's really in charge. And they're separate, like a distinctly separate entity than Russia's army. If they're trying to maintain power, the biggest challenger to their power would have to be the military. Like, if you were trying to, like, dislodge the KGB or the higher-ups or whoever from power in Russia, you would need their military to do it, because they're already so deeply rooted in the system that you would need massive amounts of manpower and firepower for that. So they deliberately want to keep the army weak so that they can't rise up.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, it's possible. He says you can read a more detailed account of relations between the Russian
possible.
state and its army here. But for now, I want to stress, they're very concerned about the potential rivalry from the army and took every effort to prevent it. Thus, they castrated the army. One precaution is to do a cleansing after each military conflict. In peacetime, power of military generals is usually low. They're bounded by instructions, protocols, guidelines, and are overwatched by state security and military prosecutors, but during the war, this control nearly disappears. So, during peacetime, it is very easy to wrangle the army into doing whatever it needs. Whatever the KGB or the state or whatever entity you think it is actually pulling the strings. It's really easy to manipulate the army into doing what you want because they're not doing anything else.
Right.
And thus, the people don't really take them seriously. They're the guys that are getting extorted by criminals. Like, they're already way too weak, so if they don't have anything to be fighting against, they basically just have to eat out of your hand. He says, but basically when a war starts, a bunch of that power gets granted back to them so they can win the war, but then that also means they're dangerous because they could try to rebel and shake up the whole power structure. He says the longer the war lasts, the less procedural and more personal military power becomes. Soon, nobody cares about procedures. Everything is done by personal oral orders. Troops get used to unquestioning obedience to a general's word. So you have to do a cleaning up after each war. So now he's saying that the way Russia does this is after every war, after the generals have had this massive amount of power, a lot of the troops would be unquestionably loyal to that general, just the way that army bonds sort of work. Right? You have that even in, the U.S. military, right? The whole idea behind, like, boot camp is it sucks so that you form this, like, very tight bond with all of the other people there that went through it with you, so that way, like, it helps increase, I guess, the, I don't know, I'm not sure what the word for it is, but it helps your army form some sort of, like, actual bond together, rather than just being a bunch of self-interested people that have guns.
Right.
So he's saying the risk is that if your general has too much power, they can have these, like, bonds with their soldiers, but then if this general decides to go rogue, the soldiers might still listen to him. So after every war, they get rid of their generals and just replace them with new ones. So their generals don't have very much in terms of veterancy. So then he says, state security fears potential rivalry from the army, so they introduced several mechanisms of control. One is to do a cleaning up after each war, killing generals who got too influential among the troops, and leaving the less influential ones. That's a negative selection mechanism. So he's saying, not only will they fire generals that are doing a good job and have strong bonds with their army, they'll fucking kill them. So the only generals that are left are the shitty ones.
Jesus.
So now Russia's army is staffed exclusively by the shittiest generals they could find, because all the good ones are dead.
So, I know this article is like, or I don't know if it's an article, but the past 70 years, right?
Yeah.
Basically what you're saying is they've been gradually nerfed.
Yeah, all right, yeah. I'm not trying to get too boring, so I'll just sum this up and just say it's linked down in the description if anyone wants to keep reading.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I don't mean that. I'm just saying my question is...
You're good, yeah.
My only question is, you said this is after World War II. Like, I'm not a history buff at all.
Yeah.
But I don't remember hearing jack shit about Russia during World War II. Like, I know they were part of the Axis powers and all, but it's all, like, all you ever hear about is Germany and Japan.
No, they
Like,
were...
were they a fucking superpower?
Russia was allies.
Oh, they were allies. Okay, wow, I'm way off then.
Yeah, the allies were the U.S., Britain, France, but they didn't fight
Russia.
in World War II, and Russia. And then I think, like, some other smaller countries that weren't huge. And I think halfway through the war, like, Italy switched from Axis to ally. But that was after they got basically beat. I think it was, like, very late.
Italy switched.
No, Russia was
So when did Russia
was
go off the
fucking
fucking deep
shit
end?
up in World War II. So, okay, I'll give a brief rundown. World War II happens. It is fighting in Europe. At this point, I think it was between World War I and II, which Russia participated in World War I.
Right.
Between that, I think they have a communist revolution, and now they're the Soviets. I think Stalin is in power at this point. I'm very fuzzy on on dates and who and when, but I believe it was Hitler is rising to power in Germany. Stalin is in power in Russia.
I know he was after Hitler, yeah.
Yeah. Stalin is in power in Russia, and Germany starts invading other European countries. So they start invading like Poland and Switzerland, and I don't think they invaded Switzerland. France, I don't know, whatever European countries, take your pick. And Stalin is like, hey, bro, what the fuck? Like, just taking Europe? And Hitler goes, nah, bro, it's cool. I won't take Russia, though. You have my word on that. I won't attack Russia. And Stalin's like, all right, sick. I don't really care if you keep moving west through Europe, because that's not my shit. So whatever. That's cool. Let's just have everything east of Germany. And then Hitler breaks that promise, like, however long after, and just randomly surprise attacks Russia. And Stalin feels some kind of way about that. Like, apparently Stalin was, like, weirdly fascinated with Hitler for some reason. I don't know. But so then Russia gets involved in the war. So now Britain and Russia and France are technically allied against Japan and Germany. Japan sneak attacks the U.S. in Pearl Harbor. The U.S. joins. And then it was interesting because the way World War II ended, at least for the Germans, was Russia. Like, there's so many conspiracy theories about Hitler. Like, have you ever heard those conspiracy theories that, like, Hitler was, like, he lived through World War II and is alive in Argentina?
I've heard... That's not the exact one I heard, but, like, yeah, I've heard a few kind of weird ones about him not killing himself.
Yeah, because they go, well, look, we don't actually have his corpse.
Right.
Russia gave us a corpse, but it matches... they checked the bones, and it's, like, it matches, like, a German woman. Like, it's not Hitler's.
Right.
So, like, what the fuck happened to his body? Is he even dead? Like, so I don't know. I don't know how much I buy into all those conspiracy theories. I do think he killed himself in that bunker, but the point is, Germany starts getting basically fucked from all sides because Britain manages to withstand being bombed all that time, fight back. U.S. invades through Normandy. That's D-Day. Meanwhile, Russia got pushed back a lot up to Stalingrad and then made that their fucking, no, we will not concede any more ground, and then completely reversed the war and just kicked Germans out of Russia because Germany they did the historical cardinal sin, which is attacking Russia during the winter. So no chance that was going to happen. Like, no way that goes well for you.
Right.
So then Russia basically kicks the shit out of them. And then from how I remember in history class, it was like basically the US and Russia were both racing to see who captures Berlin first. And Russia got there first. So then war ends, but then there's still debate over who gets the spoils of Germany. Like, who controls Germany? Well, Russia got it first, but I don't think Germany wants to be a part of the Soviet Union. And Russia goes, well, yeah, but, like, we still are sort of entitled to some of this. So then Germany splits down the middle, and that's East and West Berlin. Then the USSR exists, and that's where the Cold War starts, is basically as soon as World War II ends. And any fighting with Russia is done, like, by proxy.
Pretty good on that part.
Okay, yeah, so the Cold War is basically just a series of, like, proxy fights that happen between the US and Russia. Where
just the fucking pissing race.
Yeah, it's basically Russia trying to spread communism to as many countries as possible, and the US trying to spread democracy to as many countries as possible, and usually they'll fight over it. But while there were US soldiers and Russian soldiers involved, it was never US hot war fighting Russia hot war. But it would be like the Vietnam War and the Korean War were basically both Cold War battles, where, it was like communists on one side, backed by Russia, like, democracy soldiers on the other side, backed by the US. And then the Soviet Union collapses in 1991. But they're still sort of in a similar position, because it's not like their government randomly got better. While they're not as automatically, like, democratic as you would think because they stopped being communist, it is still very far from democracy, quote unquote. So yeah, but basically the idea is, after every major fight they got into, they didn't want a general to go rogue and, like, just seize power, because that's what a lot of that communist era shit was. Like, all of the leaders were constantly watching out for being assassinated and shit, and they still do this now. Like, I think there was an election, like, very recently in Russia, and keep in mind all their elections are rigged, but there was some dude that was, like, running against, I think, the president.
Well, yeah, of course.
And, like, I think he was actually trying to run against the guy that was president of Russia at the time, and he got, like, poisoned and nearly died, and they found out the poison was, like, made in a lab. So they're like, oh, so the Russian government just tried to fucking murk that guy for running against their dude, even though it doesn't matter because the election is rigged anyway. So that's where Russia's at. Like, tenuous grasp on power, because there's a lot of backstabbing and shit that keeps going on. A lot of, like, I must protect my own power. And I've seen some people theorizing that's why Putin invaded, which is a whole other thing, is why the fuck is he even doing this? Because it isn't even clear why he's doing it. Like, why is he, what does he want?
What I've heard he's just trying to expand. Like, I've heard one person said to me he's trying to get the USSR back together, but he's clearly not, because, like, Ukraine's not going to fucking join him.
Yeah.
So I think he's just going for the land at this point.
Well, sort of. Some of Ukraine does want
I don't know what for, because Russia's fucking huge. I don't know what he needs the land for, but...
Well, here's the thing. Russia is sort of in a shitty position by most metrics. Like, economically, they're not doing great. Like, a lot of their wealth is being just absolutely siphoned out of the country because I don't think they're technically communist, but they still have all of the problems that the Soviet Union did when they were communist. So it's like, I'm not sure what the word for it is, but basically, like,
I think, yeah, they're not communist on paper, but, like,
yeah. Well, because
they're communist.
Well, because the labor isn't collectivized, I don't think, but the workers don't own the means of production, so it isn't really communism, but it's still not what it should be, because I'm not even sure what the name of a system of government would be for this, but there's, like, rules that Russia has, like, in law that say members of the president's cabinet have to be, like, basically on the board of, like, all of the major companies in Russia. So Russia is dominated by these oligarchs that are in the president's cabinet, like, members of the government that enrich themselves off of just private companies way harder than anything we have in the United States. Like, way worse than the United States has it. Like, because we have laws about insider trading and how it's bad. Like, you shouldn't insider trade. We have laws that say that. Russia says state-mandated insider trading. Like, it is that backwards. So they're
I'm
wealthy.
Stuck on the fact that I didn't know they were allies.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're sort of they were diametrically they were diametrically opposed to.
I don't know. That was like a Cardi B thing.
The people
that cut a little deep.
Oh shit! Oh no! I mean, at least you knew
rethinking some things.
The names of both factions. You knew it was Axis
I did.
versus
Oh, you know what?
Allies.
I owe
You said,
myself points.
you
You're
said,
right.
oh, they were Axis
I owe
fighting the
myself some
Allies.
points.
It's like, yeah, so.
I know some World War II, and I grouped Germany and Japan.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Germany and Japan were both definitely Axis, but.
Yeah, see, I'm smart.
It's fine. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
So, they have this weird system where the oligarchs are absolutely draining all of the wealth out of the fucking nation because, you know, they're just insider trading and corrupt as fuck and making it worse. And they have, like, these really bad, like, their birth rates are going down and their population is just not what it used to be, which is weird because that's what, like, one of Russia's only strengths historically was they could just throw people at every problem because they had so many of them. So it's like the country is looking bad, especially because if Ukraine becomes powerful, it undermines everything that Russia's doing because it's very rare for Ukraine to not have something that Russia does, right? Like in terms of natural resources. Like Ukraine has a fuck ton of oil that it's sitting on. And Russia, most of its economy is selling energy one way or another. So natural gas or oil or what have you. Like selling that to Europe. But if Ukraine is a powerful nation that can defend itself and possibly join NATO, that has huge oil reserves, what is the point of doing business with Russia? Right. I personally don't fucking have any idea why Putin invaded. Like, I don't know why he did it.
Right.
Because it's not super clear, but there's a ton of like small reasons that I've heard people speculate. Like I heard one that actually seems sort of interesting is he thinks that, like, internally his grasp on power is slipping. Like, he's sort of losing. He doesn't have the power that he once had. So the idea is he is forcibly trying to expand his territory so he can get more allies. So it's like he's not actually trying to steal Ukraine. He's trying to destroy Ukraine's government and then put in his own, like, puppet government that he can control. So that way, if shit hits the fan and people want him dead, he can escape to a friendly allied country. But where the fuck would he go right now? Like, China? He doesn't want to go to China. Like, he wants a place where he can be powerful. China doesn't respect him. He would move to China and just be some fucking white dude in China. Like, but if he is puppet mastering Ukraine's entire government and shit goes bad for him, then he can escape to Ukraine and still be the guy there.
Right, but what's the difference? Like, alright, first of all, if he just fucking destroys the place at the rate he is now, then I guess he's going for just, like, scorched earth. Like, he's just gonna fucking wipe them all out and take over.
Yeah, I mean,
And I guess that makes sense. But then, even then, like, isn't that just Russia too? Isn't that still just part of Russia now? Like,
yeah, well, I think...
Why is that a separate place to escape to?
Well, because I think I think this has not gone nearly as planned. Right? I think this is not what he wanted. I think he assumed that this would already be over, like Ukraine would have just surrendered. Because they did something like this back in 2008 in Georgia, where they just said, all right, fuck it, we made up some weird contrived reason to go invade a country, so let's go fuck them up. And no one really cared back in 2008, or if they did, they just didn't care loud enough, I guess. So they managed to just kind of sweep the country very quickly without people really giving much of a shit about it. Then again, I don't know much about the topic, so I could be wrong about that, but that's my understanding of it. But yeah, so it's not super clear why he did it. It could be a combination of all of those things, and it's interesting because the guy that I saw that was talking about, oh well, he's padding his escape plan, was basically saying he was really good friends with fucking Gaddafi in, what is it, Libya? I think he was in charge of Libya. He's some, like, Middle Eastern or, like, African country. I don't remember what Gaddafi was in charge of. But basically that was a dude that was against the United States. I think there was some level of, like, distrust between them. He loses his grip on the power in the country when they go into this, like, democracy-based revolution and try to change the government, and they fucking hate that guy, so they brutally murdered him in the street. And Putin looks at him and goes, wait, that was my friend, and oh shit, they might do that to me.
Yeah.
So...
See what you mean.
So it's like, wait, maybe he is trying to maybe pad his escape route. I'm not sure. It's plausible, but, you can't confirm it, because, none of this shit is confirmable. We're just going to have to wait until later. Which is sort of a downer, but, whatever. So that was the thing I wanted to get to. Was basically that's why their army is so shitty, is because they're not used to fighting people like that. So they're not used to fighting large organized armies. Their logistics suck. They haven't been tested since 1945 in a straight up army to army fight before. And the Ukrainians are putting up more of a fight than I think they initially thought. That'd be my guess.
Yeah. Well, that dude, I mean, he deserves to be Person of the Year. I don't know why I always forget his fucking name.
Oh, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine?
That would be it. He was very direct in taking care of his citizens.
That's true. I do respect it. I've heard some people try to be like, no, but he's corrupt too, and it's like, okay, but
maybe, but his citizens were being attacked, and he fucking armed them.
Less corrupt than Putin, though. Like,
right.
But he's corrupt, though. Okay.
He's like, here are the resources to protect yourselves.
Yeah, it's like, look, that does suck if he's corrupt. I don't like it if he's corrupt. I don't like corrupt politicians. I don't know of anyone that does. But, like, if you're being invaded, and you're like, no, listen, we're going to fight these guys off, and we're going to rally around this guy. It's like, I mean, why are you over here trying to, like, shit all over the person that is giving all of these people hope? Like, that's kind of shitty, isn't it?
Like, right now. Right. And in America right now, like, for the past, I don't know, probably since Obama's been in office, like, it's been switching back and forth, but each time half of the country fucking hates the government.
Yeah, both sides.
And, like, it's not like it used to be, like, right, sides used to fight, but I mean, I think it started around that time where, like, the polarization has just been fucking insane.
Yeah, both sides have been
like violently polarized.
Yeah, I think both sides have been moving further away from center, and it's like,
right.
It used to just be like, oh, I don't like that guy because he is opposite my politics, but now it's like,
I'll fucking kill him.
The other guy is in, so everything that the government says is automatically a lie. Like, they go full hardcore libertarian or, like, tanky.
And, like, the thing is, I don't think the government trusts the people, like, enough to arm them right now.
No, 100%.
Like, if America was invaded right now, do you think the Biden administration would arm civilians?
No, but at the same time, like, invading America
is kind of
impossible.
And I'm not saying that about the Biden administration specifically. I'm not picking a side here. I'm just saying, in general, I don't think the Trump administration would have done it either. I don't think the government in either of these terms would have trust civilians enough, because if we were all given the resources necessary to, like, overthrow a power invading, what's to stop us from overthrowing the fucking government? But this dude, no matter how corrupt he is, he's saying, okay, we gotta focus on the fucking invasion in front of us. I don't think our own government would be doing that.
Yeah, here's the thing. I got two things for that. First, I would say, well, if everyone in the United States was armed, it would sort of change nothing, because everyone can be armed. So it's like, what's stopping us from overthrowing the government? Well, because the government is us. Like, we are the government.
To some extent.
Yeah. Obviously it's not absolute. It could be way better. But principally that's what it's at least supposed to be.
What it's supposed to be.
Yeah. But also, it would be fucking impossible for anyone to land invade the United States right now. I can't, like, I don't think it goes well for any country on Earth. Like, I think if the United States was invaded, it was because every other country in the world teamed up to fight the United States. Like,
you mean just population-wise?
Not population-wise, because we're outnumbered a lot.
Yeah.
But our military, like, far exceeds any other military in size and funding and technology, and strategically speaking, we're set up in a really good way, because the only people connected to us by land are South America and Canada, both of which have no interest in fighting us. Like, not afraid of...
a question for you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you heard this. This went viral-ish. I don't know if it was a fucking tweet or what. But my friend showed me this thing that Putin said. He was quoted as saying during a fucking an interview, I guess. He was quoted as saying, if any foreign power intervenes, they will see power like they've never seen before.
Yeah, he's basically saying he'll just nuke people.
Do you think that's what it means?
I think he knows that he's alluding to that. Yeah, I think.
Do you think it's a bluff? Or do you think he really has something up his sleeve?
Okay, here's what I think. I think
like some new fucking military thing. I'm serious.
I don't think it's some new military thing. I think it's nukes, because there's no way he would say that.
You think he just has a secret nuclear arsenal and we just didn't know how powerful Russia was?
No, we've known Russia has had nukes for a while now.
Right, but do you think it's more than we could have imagined? Or do you think it's a bluff?
I think neither, I guess. So here's the thing.
Okay.
I think he said that knowing that people would immediately assume nukes, because there's no way he says that and goes, oh shit, I forgot they would assume nukes. I didn't know. I'm my bad, guys. I didn't actually mean that. Of course I would never nuke it. No, that's not really what he's saying there. I think he needs to make sure that no one else gets involved, because no one is going to come to his aid. Who getting involved is going to help Russia? As far as allies go, Russia has no one at this point. Russia has a bunch of satellite states that it controls through corruption, but that's basically already theirs anyway. And China, but China is not about to throw down for Russia's sake. I don't think they'd do that.
Yeah.
Russia and China are too separate. China has its own shit going on. I would not be surprised. I'm going to call it now. Again, it is March 25th, 2022. I'm going to fucking call it. I think China invades Taiwan somewhat soon.
Okay.
I think
China can stand on its own, though. That's the biggest reason they're not with Russia right now. What about something like North Korea?
North Korea, what, coming to Russia's aid?
Because I don't think North Korea... Yeah.
I don't think North Korea has the
North
capability.
Korea is not a superpower.
No, not at all. I don't think it would be very helpful.
I think he thinks he is.
100%. He has the ego of someone that's helpful, but I don't think Kim Jong-un is
We could wipe him out in a fucking day.
100%. Dude, North Korea... Okay, listen.
So do you think they would be up for a team up?
I think they would, but it's not something that I would be concerned about. Even if they did ally themselves completely, I still wouldn't really be...
Right. Because their only threat right now, they're the size of fucking what? New Jersey? Their only threat is their nuclear arsenal.
And here's the thing. Okay, the last time Korea was at war, and I mean hot war, because technically they've still been at war since the 50s, but is the Korean War, and the way that went, it was thoroughly in the United States' favor there. Korean War, it was, I believe, China and North Korea fighting for communism, and South Korea and America fighting for democracy. And again, if my history teacher taught me this properly, it was the U.S. got involved as South Korea was losing and completely flipped that fight around and drove them all the way up to China's border. And then General MacArthur for the fucking U.S. Army said, okay, now we invade China, right? And the president was like, fucking no, absolutely no. We don't fight China now. And he's like, why not? He's like, well, because, it would be a long war, and we're in the 50s. World War II ended in 45. We can't get into a huge war right now. We just got out of a huge war. And he's like, all right, fine. So then they negotiate a treaty to split Korea down the 54th parallel. North Korea has not improved along a path that would keep them competitive with the United States and South Korea now, right? South Korea and the United States kept developing in terms of their bargaining positions, and the U.S.'s military has only gotten more strong since that point, whereas I don't think North Korea's is able to keep up with the rate that we've gotten better. So I think if North Korea and U.S. fought right now, no nukes on either side, we schwack them thoroughly. No shot. And then even if they do have nukes, I don't think they work very well. I don't think they're up to par. Like, I think he's got the, like, store brand nukes. So I think North Korea, honestly, non-issue. Honestly, in all of this, I'm more concerned about China. I think China is the actual problem.
Are they a nuclear threat?
Yes.
Because you hear about North Korea a hell of a lot more than you hear about China.
I think that's exactly what China wants.
Yeah.
Because they're allies. They're allies, and China could easily crush North Korea overnight if they wanted to.
Well, yeah, I believe that.
Like, North Korea only exists there because China wants them to. So, it is somehow beneficial to China to keep North Korea around so that they can keep threatening people with nukes. I don't know how it is immediately beneficial to them, or if it even is immediately beneficial. But, I mean, don't you think China would have gotten some brownie points, like, if during the height of them, like, threatening nukes and all that tension is, like, at the boiling point, like, imagine the day where it was, like, the most heated, and then China overnight just immediately takes them and goes, there is no more North Korea. South Korea is now just Korea. They're now the Korea. This is ours now. Don't worry, they're not nuking anyone. Like, the credit that China would get, the immediate respect that they would earn from that would be huge. Yeah. Like, they turned that up for something, right? There's no way they just let that go. I don't think they're compassionate to North Korea. I don't think they did that because, oh, we wouldn't want to dick over our allies. Dude, China dicks over everyone, okay? Like,
you're not wrong.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of this that is just up in the air. I think China is honestly a bigger threat considering Russia has completely bungled this invasion and now is, like, leaning on the threat of nukes to get shit done. So, I don't know. Did you say you have to go soon? I'm not trying to run too long, so you could, if you want, you can just dip out because I still had one thing I wanted to talk about, but I don't know that you'd be very interested in it.
What time is it? Yeah, I do have to catch the train.
Okay. All right, that's cool. You can just dip out if you want.
Sure.
Yeah, you're good. I just have one more thing I want to get to.
I'll see you later, man.
Yeah, we can talk later.
All right, good luck.
All right, thanks. No problem.
All right, see you.
See you. All right, so anyway, there was just one thing that I wanted to, I don't know if it's going to be one thing, but there was a thing I wanted to bring up just while I'm on the subject of Ukraine and Russia thing. And, like, it pains me to do it. Because it's one of those things where it's like, you know, people have those issues where they will complain about something and then people will say, but you never complain about it when it's something that your political side likes or it, like, benefits you or you agree with it in some way. I'm now future-proofing my argument because I need to, like, I had an opinion about some shit that was sort of complicated and I wanted to talk about it. It was basically on the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. The responses of some companies I still don't like, even though I agree with them mostly. So a lot of companies are like, yeah, guys, we're all pro-Ukraine here. You know, save Ukraine, all this shit. And it's like, I agree. It sucks that it's happening there. I wish we could do more than just sanction them, but I don't know that we necessarily have that as an option. It's like anything more. Like, I don't know that we can do anything more than sanction them and not cause a nuclear war. So, tough position. I wish there was more, you know, that we could do. But I still don't like companies that have nothing to do with it trying to pretend like they actually want to help. Or, like, getting, like, politics into shit that has nothing to do with it. Even if their politics I agree with, I still don't like it. So the example that I felt really weird about was, if you're familiar with my personal channel, I'll link that too, it'll be at the bottom. I play a lot of Smite, which is this MOBA, and they're adding a skin to the game, which is basically a pro-Ukraine skin, and it's, like, skinned like a Ukrainian flag. or whatever. And basically they said the proceeds of people buying that skin would be donated to some sort of charity, like some pro-Ukrainian refugee charity, and the company itself would like put up however much money. I don't remember how much specific it was, but they started with a lump sum and said they'd add on to it from there. And I was like, that's cool, but I don't like the idea that, video game companies putting in political like messages like, hey guys, stop this war, because it's like, you play video games to ignore it. Right? I'm not playing video games for political takes, even ones I agree with. Like, I agree. If you're donating to charity for Ukraine, that's cool, dude. I think that's great. But like, come on, man. I don't need a company telling me what's right and wrong. I have my own sense of that. I don't really care what the companies say. And I don't like the precedent that it's like, now every war that happens, there's going to have to be some sort of like, yep, we have to somehow tie this into our business model and tell people what we think. And it's like, companies shouldn't have an opinion on geopolitical matters, dude. Okay. Like, I don't understand why companies are so eager to have opinions on things. You're a company. You shouldn't have an opinion on it. Your opinion should be, we like money. But, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Hopefully I'll be uploading these a lot more frequently now that some real life shit has been taken care of. So yeah, that's cool. I'm not going to bore people anymore. I get this episode was sort of boring, but sorry, I had a lot of groundwork to lay there just in case, because I know there's a lot of shit bouncing around where people are not super informed on this. So anyway, check description for anything that you want to read up on. I'll link both of the things I was talking about there. And thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.